Our next presenter is Heta. Heta's presentation is titled Connecting Globally to Influence Autism Research. In early 2022, a Landsat Commission report was published with the title, The Landsat Commission on the Future of Care and Clinical Research in Autism. The report was meant to outline research directions. I lost it. The report was meant to outline research directions and a service model that would lead to concrete improvements in autistic people's lives globally within the next 5 years. However, the recommendations have been criticized by many autistic adults. A number of autistic researchers, scholars, and representatives of autistic-led organizations from 5 continents got together as an ad hoc committee called the Global Autistic Task Force on Autism Research, and authored an open letter and an article expressing their concerns. Through engaging in this effort, autistic groups and communities have become increasingly aware of each other's existence and learned about the practical challenges of working together globally. This presentation will summarize the main arguments made by the committee and describe some of the solutions to the problems encountered in the committee's work. As there is a need for similar work in the future, tentative suggestions for expanding global collaboration and reaching more permanent structures to maintain this will also be offered. Heta Pukki is an autistic woman diagnosed in adulthood. She has been involved in developing autistic advocacy and peer support in Finland and internationally for 25 years, engaging in several different professional and volunteer roles. She is currently the president of the European Council of Autistic People, an umbrella organization formed in 2019 to promote contacts and collaboration between autistic-led organizations in Europe, as well as international advocacy at the European level. She has training in biology and special education. She is the mother of 2 neurodivergent daughters also. Go on, Heta.
Thank you. I will just share my screen. So hopefully you can see the slide now. And
yes, we can.
As said, this presentation is about connecting globally. It's something that has been a special interest of mine for a very long time. Ever since I first connected with autistic people's communities, those in the 1990s. Originally in Finland, we didn't have any. So the first ones I learned to know were the US-based mailing lists, which back then were pretty much the only way for autistic people to connect internationally. Now, do you see the second slide?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So where this started, it was by us reaching out from the European Council of Autistic People, which was founded in 2019, specifically for the purpose of connecting organizations that are run by autistic people. And our aim is to help autistic people's organizations to find each other.
Heta?
Yes.
Could you come closer to the mic, please?
Yes.
We're barely able to hear you.
Yes. Yeah. So the aim of UCAP is to help autistic people's organizations to connect with each other and to identify shared goals and advocacy themes across language and cultural boundaries, which in Europe are many and complicated. Having an umbrella organization makes it easier for us to then enter into discussions with the larger entities and other international bodies. While it would be very difficult for a small association from somewhere like Finland or Croatia or Malta to enter the international scene. As UCAP, it is much easier for us to do so. And that is what we did in this case. So this map shows which parts of Europe we cover. We have started very much from the north and west and been gradually expanding towards the south and east as new organizations are set up there. Now, autistic advocacy is fairly old in western parts of Europe. Some of our members are 15 to 17 years old, and in many other parts of Europe, the first ones are only now being created. So what we did, starting from UCAP, we requested cooperation with autistic people's organizations from all parts of the world, all that we could possibly find. And we requested cooperation with individual autistic researchers, scholars, and professionals, ones that we thought might have something to say that could lend their authority to the message we wanted to get out. And these people and organizations were in turn encouraged to invite others. This was not meant to be something led by UCAP, but a partnership. And we tried this snowball method of adding others to it. The result was an ad hoc committee of autistic people from 5 continents. We had people from Northern and Southern America, from Europe, from Asia, from Australia and Oceania. We did not have anyone from Africa or from large parts of Asia. We couldn't find anyone from Russia. And for the writing process, we couldn't find anyone from India. As a task force, this was a temporary partnership for a specific purpose. It was not built to be anything permanent. We were creating rules and practices in a hurry as the work proceeded. No. And why did we go to all this effort? As mentioned in the introduction, this started from the publication by a Landsat commission, in itself also a temporary structure, being something that the journal Landsat had put together for certain defined goals. This was a group of 32 researchers and other stakeholders, including autistic people and family members from around the world. It was led by the 2 world-famous autism researchers, Tony Charman and Catherine Lord. And the article, the report that we were reacting to, came out first online in December 2021, and it was published in an issue of Landsat in January 2022. It was called the Landsat Commission on the Future of Care and Clinical Research in Autism. They intended to define guidelines and recommendations for the entire world. And many of us read the report, or at least tried to read it. It was 53 pages of fairly difficult text. And we started to realize that hardly any of us liked this report very much. We disagreed with both the emphasis and many specific recommendations. There was also a general feeling of pessimism and helplessness expressed, saying, what can we possibly do about this global commission created by the Landsat? We are relatively powerless. We have minimal resources. We have challenges in our lives. How can we approach what someone called the juggernaut? What we did as we came together, gradually adding more people and organizations, We discussed the article. We got together on Zoom. We created shared files where people could comment by writing. And through several meetings and a lot of written communication, we drafted a letter and an article. The article being called Autistic Perspectives on the Future of Clinical Autism Research. Our short letter was meant to be originally to be sent to the Landsat as a letter to the editor or a comment on the report. But we found the process difficult. We did not indeed have the resources to engage through that, hugely, famous and influential journal. So we felt that as a venue for discourse and interaction, it was utterly inaccessible to autistic people. We published the letter as an open letter on many of our websites by autistic-led organizations around the world and translated it to several languages. And this longer article, we submitted it to get it the status of peer-reviewed literature. We submitted it to Autism in Adulthood journal, which turned out sympathetic to our cause. We also made it available as a preprint version so that discourse could continue while we go through the slow process of peer review. So some of the challenges we encountered is not simple. Just put together a lot of autistic people from around the world and talk and come to a conclusion. We do find that we are used to culturally different ways of working. And as we move ahead, we need to figure out what our shared rules and practices really are when we are working across many cultures and many different cultural practices, and very importantly, many language barriers. We worked mainly in English, and we were very aware that that in itself creates situations of privilege and inequality. Those who are most fluent in English inevitably are in a better position to get their thoughts in. No. We lack resources. All around the world, autistic people's organizations lack resources. Most of us cannot invest money, and we cannot invest a huge amount of our time to start suddenly putting in hours and hours of work into making this happen. We lack accessible platforms to engage with these researchers. When we try to talk through these peer-reviewed journals, we find out about deadlines and other various requirements involved in peer-reviewed publishing. Most of us are not used to those. There is a cost, for example, to making our article open access, making it available to the world without a paywall. That cost is higher than any individual autistic people's organization can easily manage. But we had many very positive experiences throughout. Some of the positives that come out of this: we become more visible to each other. We didn't know it from the European perspective when we started. We didn't know what was really there in Korea. We had a very vague idea. We didn't know if there was anything at all happening in Japan that could connect with this. And suddenly we learned that yes, there is not only something, but they immediately recognize the ideas expressed by the rest of us. And we find that there has been participatory autism research in Japan for the past 10 years. We find a lot of interesting literature. When you have 30 or 40 of us finding our favorite literature that brings together an incredible amount of inspiring, interesting, convincing research that agrees with our views. So that has been great fun to read. We find the allies, the non-autistic researchers who agree with this and say, yes, your message is very important and we will help. And we very much agree that more of the same is needed. We need to work on this, and we need to work on other topics at the global level as autistic people. Some of the key messages, the substance of our work, what we criticized in that long report by the Landsat Commission. We did not agree with their general emphasis on behavioral interpretations. That was absolutely all-encompassing and dominant in their writing. We did not agree that autism research should start focusing on studying behavioral interventions even more than up to this point. We did not agree with the suggestion that there should be a separate term, profound autism, in addition to all the clinical diagnostic terms for those with learning difficulties, minimal communication, or otherwise high support needs. We felt that this was bringing back functioning labels, which have caused a lot of damage in the past. We felt that the Landsat Commission, while they claim to have proper representation of autistic people, but they claim to have variety and to have the whole world properly represented, all groups, we didn't see it that way. Yes, there were 3 or 4 autistic people on the Landsat Commission, but in terms of different parts of the world, different genders, different approaches, no, there wasn't. We felt that the neurodiversity paradigm, which most of us are aware of and support, was quite badly misinterpreted and presented in a misleading manner. And in connection with that, autistic people's organizations were largely ignored and misunderstood, and somehow lumped together as the neurodiversity movement, while some of us have slightly different emphasis, while agreeing with the neurodiversity paradigm. We felt, for example, that it was positive that they mentioned there are harmful pseudo treatments that are being promoted, and yes, they need attention, but they didn't see that it is the academic and the research world that is often participating and contributing to the generation of such treatments. They proposed a step care model for the provision of services, which we felt was not negative in itself, but didn't really provide anything new. It repeated principles of good practice, which should already be in use everywhere. We wanted more of certain things. Research into the causes of excess mortality, research into the barriers in healthcare. We wanted research into interventions that could actually make us better, that would give us hope. And those would be interventions informed by autistic people's experience, incorporating the ideas of double empathy problem, the neurodiversity paradigm, inertia, monotropism, the effects of autistic communities and peer mentoring, and so on. We listed many of these ideas, which we feel are useful and generate hope. So now we're considering ways forward. And what is happening and will inevitably keep happening more and more is that autism research will become increasingly globalized. Researchers and academia are connected globally. How can we become a meaningful part of this discourse? We made a tiny start. No, our letter and article are not an end to anything, but hopefully a beginning. So we're thinking now, how will we put together the next task force? Not being in a desperate hurry, not reacting to something with deadlines, but really thinking about it and creating those rules and principles and practices that will allow us to participate as equally as possible from everywhere. We're wondering how to add more countries and regions to be properly global when we now manage to cover sort of half the world. And to this audience, specific question is which groups and individuals from India might want to step in and join this process as we move ahead. This material will be available to all who are interested, and please feel free to email me whenever about these matters. I will put my email address on the chat channel.